We're here.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there, Twitch chat and YouTube chat. How are you? We're just here. What?
Tom was beating us on the intros there. You know, he's just a classier dude.
I'm just here to do bits. Like, I don't actually know anything about game development or coding. I just do bits.
It's all been a sham.
It's all a sham full of bits. I hope you're all having a good day. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
What is it, April 20? Is it 28th?
28th. It is 28th. Yep.
It's lovely to see you all. So welcome to Scope Check. Hi, I'm Tom. I'm a technical marketing advocate at Unity on the education team. And we're here to build this game. We're on episode 3. Wow, we've actually made a lot of progress. I'm really impressed with us. But I guess first, for first-time viewers, Joy should tell the people about who you are.
Yeah.
Who am I? I actually had to think there for a second. Hi, I'm Joy. I'm an instructional designer on the Unity Learn team. I'm responsible, in part, for all of the stuff that you see on Unity Learn. So if you want to figure out how to use Unity in a way that's fun and cool, come check out our content on Unity Learn.
And then, of course, we've got our man Utsav. Yeah, it is a nice intro, right?
Yeah, that's such a nice intro. Like, I feel like I should go first so I don't have to follow you guys. I'm Utsav. I'm a product manager in the education team. Alongside Joy, I'm also responsible for some of the Learn's output that you see on learn.unity.com. Come visit learn.unity.com. It's a great place to learn about Unity after this stream. Nice to see you guys here.
Nice to see everybody. And we are monitoring both YouTube and Twitch chats. We'll be able to hear from all you beautiful people watching this. So let's start with what the show is about. So the idea is we have 8-ish episodes to put together a game. This is really for educational purposes. We want to challenge ourselves and learn some stuff, and there's no better way to challenge yourself and learn stuff than to do it under high pressure in front of a large audience for the first time. So that's the plan. Yeah. So the first episode, right, we got together, we did a bunch of polls for everybody. We figured out kind of what the game premise is, which our game is, I kind of want to go with the procedurally generated AI name of Beat Snack High Cafeteria Chaos, but we'll talk about that later. But the idea is you are at a high school cafeteria, suddenly there's an outbreak of monsters, they're all hungry, they're chasing you for food, and you have to throw food at them to make them no longer want to eat you. The next episode, we put together our technical design document, got that all out of the way, so you can go check these those old episodes as well. I believe there's links in like the Go Live post, and they're all living on YouTube. And this episode is our first coding session. So as is par for the course, though, we did have some homework that we left with last week, and we had to work on some things. And we also committed that every single show, every single one, we would do a scope check, right? So the whole point is, can we actually get this done? Scope check. So I think without further ado, we should pull up the documents.
Let's do it.
And do it. So I'm gonna put, can I go over the parsec window? I can, beautiful. Okay. So let's minimize our outline, and we have our food-based game dev design doc here. So let's just check on some things. So we haven't started experimenting with multiplayer yet, but still feeling comfortable about it, if I remember, right? But there's a caveat there.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about was the netcode on WebGL.
So my understanding from talking to some people, it is doable.
Okay.
But we would have to write a lot of custom extension to make it work.
Okay.
So I think what we need to do is release the multiplayer version as either like an EXE or a mobile game. I don't know how else to pivot there, because I don't know that we have the time to do everything else.
Yeah. So essentially you're saying no multiplayer for WebGL, but maybe a PC or a mobile version of the game with multiplayer.
I think so. What do y'all think?
That's not a bad idea. My concern would be, do we want to just build out .apks or .exes? Like, because we can't have mobile games on Apple devices if people have Apple devices and want to play.
EXEs will be more accessible, and then we could also make .apps as well.
Yeah.
Or whatever the Mac for it's .app.
It is .app. It is .app. Yeah.
So that's what we gotta I think that's what we gotta think about, right? Like we gotta plan that part. So that's a scope check there that I think we should take further when we look into multiplayer. But I still want to make multiplayer happen. And thinking, oh yeah, the bull, you are absolutely correct. There were a lot of pizza jokes. So if you did miss the previous episodes, the only thing you'll need to know is there was a lot of good pizza jokes. But yeah, I think we should talk about that. Thinking about like converting to mobile controls, I don't think we'll too bad because there's a really good mobile control rig that Unity provides that we can basically drop in, plug into the action system, and we're good, right? Like I'm not too worried about that.
Oh yeah. By the way, just a real early plug, and new input system is so awesome, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But it was my first time working with that. It's so awesome. Anyway.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, like, we're burying the lead here. Do we want to show the friendos what we actually made while we were away from the stream?
I think we should. Do we need to scope check anything else in the document, or should we just dive into the game? I'm not.
I think we should.
I
want to show the fun stuff.
Because
cool.
I think multiplayer was the only scope check moment. Everything else, I feel pretty comfortable with. I don't know about you two. Okay.
Yeah, everything else is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we're really on path. So let me go ahead and drop this document out of the way. And I think we should just go through what we developed. And what we're doing today is something very fun for us. So we're actually going to use Parsec to collaborate today. So we have, you can see it behind me, the engine running, our build running in Parsec. And then myself, Joy, and Utsav are all remoted into my work laptop, and we're just going to develop together in Parsec so that we can all just collaborate on one machine. Pretty excited about that. So I think... Oh yeah, I gave Joy control of my computer.
No, Joy's changing my layout. I changed the windows.
Oh no. What do you
I could do it.
No.
I have this power. I could do it. I'll click it.
So before we end friendships over default layout, let's Joy, do you want to show the code you wrote first? I think you built quite a few systems, and then Utsav, you want to jump in? Oh, that's right. Make Unity full screen. Bop. There we go. And then Utsav, you want to jump into yours, and then I can show like the spawner I wrote, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool.
So first things first, let's start with like the real coolness and actually show them what's going on in the game.
Sure.
And I'm trying to stay windowed. Full like, warning here. This is like, obviously our first time doing this, and so I'm slightly afraid of messing things up.
Right.
So it's so wide.
Start with doing things live on stream. That's how we roll.
That's how you do it. Okay, so here's the game. Here's our character. We're running around doing things, and oh no, zombies are chasing after us. And it's getting to be that there's too many. A couple zombies are targeting the other guy, so that's great. So that's where we are. That is where the game is existing right now. For those of you that have been around since the beginning, you can kind of see where this is starting to go with our game design document. But anyway, so that's our preview. So let's actually quickly go over what I did. So once again, on the last episode, we talked about what each one of us is going to do, and I was going to create the character class. And we had this conversation about whether or not we were going to be using inheritance or composition. And we had collectively decided inheritance. And then I got into Unity. I'm like, but composition would make more sense. So I went with composition, and I mostly apologize, but also it's so much cleaner. So that's what we're going with. So I actually created a series of scripts, and basically I created the stubs for all the scripts that would have gone into a single character class if that's the direction that we would have went. Right. So we have HP, which for our characters is health points, and for our monsters is hunger points. See, it works.
It does.
We've got our melee attacks for our enemies, nav mesh movements for our enemies. Utsav actually did the player controller, and then the projectile attack for our players. And we've got our super awesome, let me go into the same view because it's bigger. And I know that we're using isometric here because, you know, ultimately our game's gonna be isometric, but I'm sorry, I need to see things in perspective at the scene view. So if we go over here, Standy McStandardson is the stand-in for our character. We've got exciting news that we'll talk about later on that. But for right now, Standy McStanderson is a high-level advanced prototype cube. You can see that he is a scale of 0.5, and a wonderful height of 1. So again, advanced level. But if we scroll down here, you can see that we have our health script. Currently he has no health, but that's okay. And he's got his projectile attack. We will dig into those, you know, momentarily, but then we also have the player input and player controller. So that's awesome. And then I'm going to quickly jump over here into the prefabs folder and go to our enemies. Our zombie is our enemy of choice. And you can see that he's got a NavMesh agent, the NavMesh movement, and then the melee attack script. So those are all the things that I ended up building. And let's go to the scripts folder again.
While you're searching, I want to call out the bull. First of all, so Sandor in YouTube chat was like, "I told you the composition was cleaner," and you were right.
Yes,
you were championing
correct.
for it a lot last week, so you're right. And then the bull said we should call the HP for monsters hangry points, which I think is
correct. That is canon.
I like that. I like that very much. Yep.
Also, Armin Kazim, welcome to the party. But yeah, hangry points definitely worthwhile. All right, so continue. Sorry.
Yeah. No. That perfectly valid. So, what's going to happen when I open up this script? Is Visual Studio going to pop up appropriately?
It should.
Let's find out.
If not, I can turn around and fix it. But looks like it
never
did.
mind. It works fine. Okay, cool. So again, most of these scripts are just stubbed out. They're there so we remember that they need to be there. There are some things that function, like, you know, obviously HP. You know, there are some things that we knew we were going to need. So we've got some variables. We've got a reduce HP method that we're going to be able to call from elsewhere. And then eventually we're going to have to figure out what happens after we die. But that's fine. That's low effort. It's not a big deal.
Comment actually killed me when I read that yesterday.
That is no biggie. That was the best part.
No biggie.
Yeah. And then projectile attacks. Again, this is going to be for our players throwing food. This is literally just stubbed out. The only thing that I put in here was kind of like this open question in the form of a variable of whether or not we wanted to have a rate if different foods will be faster to throw or not. Just put that out there. And then I keep getting thrown by the fact that this is a window within a window. If I minimize this, no, Unity.
Now I'm gonna have to bring it back. Yeah, I can fix it.
I'm sorry.
I can fix it. I have the technology. But don't take my mouse right now. Don't steal my mouse right now.
No, hands RP. Yay!
Okay.
Melee attack. Let's go in here. Yeah. So melee attack also is barely beyond stubbed. So we've got our attack value, and then we have a public method called attack, which is just saying yo right now, and that's because you'll be able to see the zombies saying yo when they reach the player. I just needed to make sure that a Unity event was firing correctly. So that's what that is all about. NavMesh movement is for the zombos, actually for all of the enemies. So this one is pretty simple. I wanted to call out that I did require the component of NavMesh agent. That way, no matter what, if this gets applied to a character, they're going to be able to actually use the script. So pretty simple. We've got this cool little thing here where they'll select a player at random to target and chase after. So this might be revised a little bit once the connectivity stuff happens, but I think that'll just work. Because this is just going to run at start and it's just going to look for anything tagged player. So I think we're good. And then we've got just this Unity event. Actually, so for those of you who may or may not be familiar, Unity events are really cool because they give you a little kind of like interactive ad area in the inspector. I'll show it in a second. But they're also super easy to implement. So like you just say, hey, I want a Unity event. Here's the type of event I want. Here's the name. And then when you want to call it, it's just invoking it. So very simple stuff. How do I get back to Unity at this point?
What are you trying to do? Oh, so you're going to grab the top of the window and just scoot it down a bit and then click on Unity. So that's the one thing I've just, and then just full screen Unity for me.
Wait, what just happened?
Oh, okay, there it is. So yeah, then just make sure you full screen Unity for me, so we're not. Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, so that was awesome. Now, if we look at the switching to Unity just totally like fried my brain. What was the last that we were looking at? We were looking at.
Did you want to show the events?
Nav mesh.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Where did I?
They're on your. Are they on your enemy prefab? Right?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Because they're
This is really hard to remember what's going on when we're looking at a separate thing.
So
what
go
was I
to
just looking at?
I think we're gonna look at your enemy prefab if we're talking about events, right? So go back to your prefabs folder under enemies, and I think it should be in there on the prefab, right? If you click zombie B.
Yes, thank you. Jeez.
You're welcome.
There's like literally we're talking about like interdimensional stuff when we're dealing with Parsec. Like it really fries my brain. Anyway, yeah, here's a Unity event. It's called an attack range. It's a bool. And you can see that we've just got the zombie calling attack, and right now it just says yo. So if I just go back in and let the zombies come and attack me, you will see a lot of yos. So I will embrace the zombo.
Yo!
Come get me!
The game's already kind of fun, isn't it?
It is like just trying to avoid the zombies is actually kind of fun.
Fun, yeah. I shouldn't have frozen rotations because it looked funnier that way.
Go over to the console. Oh, our console.
You just gotta turn them on, yeah.
Yeah. So, yo! There we go. Who doesn't collapse their logs?
We have a lot of debug logs from some troubleshooting yesterday, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Yep.
So that is, I think, pretty much what I went over. The last thing that I want to talk about, and Thomas, I will need your help on this, is I just wanted to talk about my approach with figuring out which scripts I needed to write. Can you show the image of my notebook?
Yes. It should be. All right, don't steal mouse control again.
Okay, here we go.
I'm gonna steal it.
So, and now I can. Yay! Okay, this is how I figure out what I'm doing, and I think it's really important to note that my personal scripting process always begins on paper or on whiteboard, and it's literally just having a conversation with myself about what the target thing that's going to get scripts can and can't do. So in this case, players can and enemies can, and I write a list. And then I start scoping out what scripts need to be created based on that. And I put these in columns because originally when I first wrote this out, I was thinking that we were going to have a single class, and I was looking for overlaps. But because I eventually like went a different direction, then I stopped worrying about that. But I still put like similar things like health in the middle because I knew they were going to share it. So that's my approach to figuring out script stuff. So you can see that I also started thinking about like how food's going to work and what food and food sources can do. I also identified where like some pools may be happening. But if you've never done this before, I think it's an extremely helpful way to approach scripting. And it just gets you in the right mindset. So you're not just sitting there staring at Visual Studio or whatever you're using and thinking like, what do I write first? You have notes.
Yeah.
And I always keep them by my side. Yay. So that's me done. Somebody else take over because Parsec is scary.
Parsec is scary. I do want to say, I think, the on paper organization that you do, that looks so helpful because like I'm somebody who has trouble putting pen to paper. Like a lot of my thoughts live in my head. And as I build it out, but clearly having something like this would make things easier for me, right? Because then I can plan it out. I can kind of change things out. So I think this is wonderful. And honestly, this is wonderful for me because a lot of these things I'm going to use in the code that I write as we continue building this. So I'm going to come back and refer to this.
Yay! Yay!
Can I close this? I'll take over Parsec in Unity. Can I close this?
Please
Okay,
go for it.
Perfect. All right. So what did I do? So I did character controller, and honestly, that was pretty straightforward. I did not realize how easy it was, because I know input systems been in Unity for a couple of years now, but it's been like about a year and a half since I worked in Unity as doing any development. And before that, I was working on projects that were year, 2 year, 3 years old in some cases. So for me, this was my first time using the input system. So what did I do? I'm going to start at the very basic. I went to Package Manager. Do you see Package Manager? I don't see it.
Yeah, I gotta move it over. Hold on. Don't steal my mouse.
There we go. Thank you. And I'm just gonna go back into in project because it's already there. But if you want to search for it, you can search right here, and then install it. Once it's installed, you also have some samples, which I'm not going to talk about. There's something about different. Once you have the input system set up, then you want to go into project settings. And thank you.
Yep. This is not something I considered.
I didn't either. That's okay.
We're
That's
professionals.
Okay.
We're smart. We know how technology works.
So in here, you see these are some default settings, but in order to create these default settings, you actually have to create a settings asset, which should live just around here. So I'll close this, and we don't have to. I didn't change any of these things, and if you really want to go into advanced and you want different behaviors, right, depending on how you tap, how much, like if you want to jump longer, the longer you hold the button, right? Those kinds of things is where this would come in helpful. So I'm going to close this now, but I can't see the settings. That's okay. But essentially, it just auto creates the settings, so you don't have to really worry about changing anything. Once you create, you just hit the create button and you're good to go. Cool. So once those things were done, what I ended up doing was, going to my tongue twister of a character named Standy McStandenson. I think I did that right.
Nailed it.
There you go. So I ended up adding a rigid body component, and you then have to add player input. Sorry. So if you don't know, I'll just go in here, say player input. Since it already has one, I'm not going to add anymore, right? When you add a new player input, you'll see that it requires actions, and I already have an action map done. But if this is your first time creating a player input, you'd have to create a new action set. So this is what that would look like. Now, how does this work? And this is me. So the reason I'm explaining it this way is because I did this. Like, I learned this as I was building this out. So if somebody knows this, bear with me. We already have some of these actions, not all of these. So I created jump, which I'm going to actually delete right now because we don't need jump. But we have move, and you see there's already mapped to existing controller sets, right? So WASD, which includes up, down arrow keys. Then if you're on gamepad or XR controllers, same is true for look. I think if you're creating it the first time, instead of throw, you'll have fire, but at least the triggers will all be the same. Yep. Another thing to look at is if you look here, which kind of action type you're doing, right? So value, button, pass through. Value is when the value is consistent, right? You're receiving consistent value. It's not a single button trigger that changes a state. It's a consistent value type that you're referring to. But if you look at throw, it's button because it's a single state change, right? It's a button that responds to a single state change.
Yep.
So that's what that looks like. Now we actually have to write some code to see what it actually does. I am going to save this. So we'll go back to our scripts. We'll go to mono behaviors. We'll go to characters, and we'll go to player controller. And boom, on screen. And I'm gonna
Joy, your cat saying what's good.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I heard the stream's on. I want to do a scope check.
I love cats. Your cat is so cute. Yeah. Okay. So what does the player controller script looks like? So going back to what the actions do. Once you have those action names, so like move, look, throw, all of those translate to these kind of functions or actions essentially, where you can do stuff. So anytime you press the button, this is the callback you see. how does this script work? So I require a component of rigid body because we're going to use physics to move, right? You could technically not use a rigid body and just change the transform positions yourself, but I wouldn't do the math when this is so easy, right? Like, I mean, if you're doing very specific input types and you really want to have full control over transforms instead of letting physics do the work, you could go that route, but you know, it will be a little more complicated. So it requires a rigid body for those reasons, right? And I prefer serialized field instead of public variables, which I feel like what most people do, hopefully. So, you know, we want the move speed, which you can actually change in the editor. I'll go back to Unity and kind of show what this looks like. And then throw force, we don't have a throw input yet, but we're going to, so I'm just prepping ahead of time. Stop player, I just added this in case we wanted to like just stop the player at any moment.
In case you wanted to punish them for some reason. I see how it is.
But I think it's a realistic idea because, you know, like when, for example, the level ends, right? We don't want the player to keep moving around, so we could flag that value.
Yeah, exactly. And right now there's not an input associated with it. It's just a pool in the inspector, but you know, it should be fairly easy to add that. And then we have a couple of vectors, vector 2s and vector 3s. Vector 3 because force needs to be vector 3 applied to vector 3, and move is the input value action we're going to get. The reason it's vector 2 is we only need x and z values because you can move on the y, right? Okay, so what do? We get the rigid body component. We look at value, and if you remember the action map, you would have remembered that it was input type value vector 2. Right? So this value is getting the vector 2 from on move. Move was the action in the input action map. And from there, we essentially create a move force by applying those values here. And these values are just zeros and ones, right? So if you're moving in front of you, then you have 0, 1. If you're moving behind you, you have 1, 0, and so on and so forth. And I think since it's 2, 0, 1 values, it's probably 4 permutations total, right? So that's what we do. We just calculate the move force on the on move, right? But the move actually happens in the fixed update since it's a physics-based operation. So so what we do is I just set the velocity to move force multiplied by move speed, right? Because how fast you move is something maybe we want to change and play around with, see what feels good, what doesn't, and multiply that with this move force that's created here. Stop player again. So all I do is I check whether stop player is true or not, and if it is, I just stop the player. That's all I do. And on toggle and on throw, and I can speak very briefly about that. On toggle is if you have different kinds of food and you want to switch through different kinds of food, then I'm going to use the on toggle for you to kind of cycle through your different food items that you can throw. And on throw is going to be when we have something that we're ready to shoot at. With our skeletons to our enemies, not just skeletons. Okay, and then I'm going to minimize this and come back here. So this should be fairly quick. So coming back here, so you see player input setup with the actions right here. You can also, by the way, create multiple actions. So like if you wanted to change controls up and flip them over or something, so do some cool stuff. If any of you have played I forget the game, but it's a multiplayer puzzle game, which I love. But anyway, so in here, if you look at player controller, I can do the move speed. I can do throw force, which right now will do absolutely nothing. But if I change the move speed, it'll change how fast I move. The direction doesn't change, right? And then stop player is just a bool for me to stop the player anytime. And you see rigid body is right now none. That's because in the start function is where I get the rigid body component. So if I were to play the game right now, you'd see that it should populate with the rigid body. Oh, let me unminimize this. Yep, right there. So, and then if I play the game, you see the pace I'm moving at. Now let's see if I can change this to, can I change it to 100? Do I need to pause? 100 might be too much. I can't change it.
Why is it letting you change the variable? That's interesting.
I know, that is interesting. I wonder. Even though it's paused. Weird.
And I wonder why can't it change?
Let's see if I change it in non-play mode and then come back to it. No, it doesn't let me change it at all.
Wait,
is
are you
super
using the
strange.
numpad?
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Your keyboard is broken.
Okay. My numpad was on, but
But
Okay,
wait, was mine not on because
yes, correct. So
And
now
Parsec
mine
was
is
like,
off,
nah.
but yours is on. So this is 25. I guess that doesn't make a lot of difference, huh?
I think it was a little faster.
Seemed a little bit faster, yeah. Do like
Okay.
Well,
200.
go ahead and try. Yeah, set it to your destructive speed of 100 and let's see what happens.
I also want to know if
That's
it's.
all my stuff.
Oh, whoa.
Where'd it go? Did it skip a physics? Did it blow through the collider because it just like
Yeah.
jumped the physics step? Yeah.
yeah, I did.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, but I just wanted to show how you can play around with these things and kind of run it around. But that was it. So it wasn't as extensive as what Joy did, but it was something new to me, and I had a lot of fun playing with this. And call out to Thomas, because Thomas sent me a video he did explaining the input system, and I actually used that, and I was like, wow, that was so helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thomas.
No problem.
Yeah.
buddy.
Actually, really quick, Utsav, since you're already in control and Parsec scares me, I just remembered something. Could you do me a favor and go back into my navmesh agent script?
Oh, not this one. Nav mesh agent. Let's see if it's
Yeah.
already open. Is it already open?
Isn't I think it's called nav mesh movement, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the right script.
Yeah, could you scroll up a little bit? In that movement script, yeah, just give it a little, highly important. Could you review that section for me?
Which one?
If you scroll down there's a region that I just added. I was a
check
little,
this region.
yeah, the highly important region that I needed you to review that for me. If you could just, open that up and just, give me your thoughts on that.
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah. Oh, well, if you could just make it a little bit smaller so it becomes clearer. It's a very important comment. So if you could just
how do I make it smaller?
control and scroll wheel.
Scroll wheel? Like
Yeah.
oh, I see.
Hold
I see.
control and scroll it in. Yeah,
There
yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
make yourself?
I did
With
make ASCII art
ASCII?
of myself doing this.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, I was reviewing and, you said that comments should be important and appropriate. Well, I wanted to make it clear that I wrote this. So, now you know.
Hey, I am just glad you put it in a region, and also since this doesn't need an update, I'm okay with this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love that was actually really good use of regions as well. If y'all don't know what those are, that's shortcut you can use in Visual Studio
Let's do
to
a region lesson
offset.
real quick.
Yeah. There were some really interesting comments in the chat before I jump into what I did. My segment's a lot quicker. I took the light workload this week, which was kind of nice. So somebody asked, what's the difference between like adding force and just setting a velocity? I mean, the big difference there is if you add force, it's going to take into account like the mass of the rigid body, drag, all of those things, and how much force you're adding to calculate what the velocity of it is, right? You can also choose the direction the force is added. Or I think you can actually apply force to a specific point if you get really granular. So you're going to get a different velocity. Whereas what we're doing is we're literally just saying, go this fast. Like we're just skipping all of those steps and saying, move this quick. If you add force too, you can add it over time and you'll see the velocity generally grow as more force is added. So you can get like an acceleration. As Izzy says, you can use the force. Okay. So now that, I need to get YouTube chat up as well. Okay, cool. Perfect. So, all right, so we got all this set here. So let me show you what I built, y'all. So I took care of, first of all, building this beautiful level that you're all looking at, this quick prototype level. So I set up this scene, made some tables, just so we had something to work on. I also baked our nav mesh. So here's our navigation mesh that we all set up. This is how we're using those nav mesh agents to move around, right? They're finding their way inside of here. And everything's, Esteban, what's good, man? How are you? So we got all this kind of set up and we got this put together, right? Pretty straightforward. We marked all the areas. We marked everything as static. We baked it. Boom, nav mesh done. Just so you all know what we did here. If I click on environment basic and go to inspector, it's just this drop down here. And I made sure everything inside my environment was marked as navigation static so that it would be calculated. And then from here, I can jump to just the navigation and all the blue area is where we can walk. And then I set up some spawners. So I have my spawn points here. So I just made 4 spawn points in each of the corners so that we had a location to place the objects at. And and then we can go through and spawn at those locations, right? So then I wrote just like a quick little spawning script. So we have our spawn controller here. Wow, my text is so small now. Oh, that's right, because we shrunk it for the
Make it bigger.
for the ASCII. So pretty straightforward, right? I made a private list of enemy prefab so that we could randomly grab an enemy prefab. Really, I just built this so we had something to test with. This isn't tied into our game manager or any of the systems. And what I really found as I was building this is there was a lot of questions I needed to answer with building the game manager that were not yet answered that we're going to answer today. So then I made like a spawn gap, right? So how long in between each enemy spawn? Then we have a list of transforms with the spawn points. And then we have a game object, which is the spawned enemies. I'm actually just using that to clean up the hierarchy. So we're going to make a new thing called spawned enemies and make them all a child of it. So they spawn underneath it. So the hierarchy doesn't get flooded when we're spawning. And then we have so this is the temporary, right? Until the game manager exists. It's just, is the game running or not? And we can just toggle that so that we can turn off and on the spawning. So inside of awake, we're setting up the game object. And then in start, we're going to start our spawn coroutine. And we're going to just debug.log the size. I can actually get rid of these debug statements now. I was just doing testing. So we can comment these out. So then I have this nice little coroutine set up. So you give it how much the gap is, and then while the game's active, you just keep doing this, right? And you'll see that we're waiting for the spawn gap seconds. We're spawning the enemy, and then we're going to grab the nav mesh. So I'll talk about this in a second, but basically you're going to spawn the enemy, set the transform position, rotate the index through using this nice little, I always remember the term, ternary. We're using this nice little ternary. So we're basically saying, hey, if the spawn location index is greater than or equal to the size of the array or the list, then set it to 0. Otherwise, add +1 to it, right? Otherwise, move up the list to get the next object. So what we found is a weird bug yesterday. Is we were basically, that's a funny comment, Bull. The Y in the ASCII art really brings out the joys, green eyes in the art. No, sorry.
And the green of my hair and the green of my smile.
It's all greens. So what we found was basically it was fighting between the nav mesh and the spawn point position. And so half of our objects were actually spawning at the wrong location because they were trying to spawn, it looked like almost off mesh, and they were instantly snapping into the middle-ish of the screen. So what we found we needed to do was actually disable the nav mesh agent, set the position, and then enable it to allow it to start moving. And so we'll put together a more eloquent solution. We're going to put together like an actual like I've been spawned event that will toggle, and then I've died event that will turn it off, or I've been set back to our object pool. I'll turn my nav mesh agent off. But for a quick fix yesterday to get ready for this, we just went ahead and then disabled it, wait till the position's set, and then enabled. And I'm actually going to, now that we know that's fixed, I'm going to get rid of all of these debugs because we just don't need them anymore.
Yeah. And I think this is a really good kind of point to bring up where we're doing a messy solution so we know that like what we're trying to achieve actually works. And we could have actually gone through and actually cleaned this up, but we wanted to show you guys like in our process of figuring out what was going on. And this was a prolonged process. We're like, why isn't this working? Let's put in a bunch of debugs. We got to an answer. We understood what the problem was. We did a temporary solution to make sure that we actually understood what the problem was and we knew how to solve it. Mm-hmm. And now in this next week, we're going to go through and actually make this nice and clean. Yep. So it's just an iterative process. You don't have to have everything perfect the first time.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
In fact, I would even say that the first time a problem is presented to you, and this is a method you can use where you brute force the solution and then look at if it works or not, and then start thinking about how you optimize it or what's the best way to actually, deliver something that is optimized and works well. But it's okay to just brute force whatever you're doing first time, as long as you know that it will change and get optimized later on, right?
And you have to make that commitment, which we made with each other in our Zoom call yesterday. Like, okay, we're gonna fix this, right? And we were all like, yes. So somebody had an interesting question. Why are you using coroutines and not tasks? I like coroutines. I just haven't really set up like a task-oriented system. And so for me, it was like, it's comfort, right? It's something I know how to do. It was quick. It gets it done. And then someone asked, are debug logs better than breakpoints? No, they're just different.
Different.
That's ultimately what it comes down to. Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of they both work extremely well for certain situations. Now, for us, the reason why debugs worked really well is because we had a pool of 4 spawn points and only 50% of them were acting strangely.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to stop the code as soon as like one enemy spawned, because it could have been a correct spawn.
Right.
So we just wanted to monitor in Unity as the game played what was going on in those debugs. And so we want a continuous flow. Breakpoints are great when you just want to like stop when something happens. And in that case,
look at all the variables, right? And all the types.
Exactly.
And yeah.
I feel like that was such eloquently explained by Joy. Like, that was very well done.
Cool. So that's our code, and that's what got us to where we are today. I don't know how many hours everybody put in. I think I probably put 3 hours in last week. Three and a half.
Right. I was just having so much fun like doodling in my notebook and then like implementing these little tiny scripts. It made me happy. So yeah, probably around that time. I didn't want to stop.
For me, it took an hour, but I think part of that was just me learning input system. I feel like it would have been a lot quicker without that.
So we're, 7-8 hours so far, Deb, not counting streams and putting together marketing plans and all that other stuff. So that being said, that means we can switch to our next scene, which I wish we had some kind of big transition with explosions. Because we're going to write a game manager live together. And we haven't really like talked about how we want to tackle this.
Let's
think about it. Just live on stream.
Yeah,
that's
we're just gonna talk it out.
Yep.
So I think first things first, let's talk about our organization, right? So we really agreed that like we want to organize our mono behaviors into stuff, right? So we have like characters. So I feel like game manager could exist in like a utilities folder. Does that make sense? Should we make like a util folder?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll make a folder here. We'll call it util. I think set constant velocity is also a utility, and I think spawn controller is actually also a utility because it controls something.
Yeah, that's
fair. Okay.
And yeah, well, let's take a look at your screen so we can see what you're doing over here.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, production. I'm throwing loops. I'm throwing loops for our man Freeman. I'm sorry, man. All right.
Everybody
so now that we've
production.
yeah. Big shout out to Freeman taking care of us. I got explosions in the chat. Thank you all. All right. Let's make this thing. So first things first, let's right click, create a C# script, and we're going to call it game manager, right? That's the agreed. That's the agreed thing. And then Unity's going to do the thing it does and make it a little cog.
It's the cog. Or is it a gear?
I guess
it's a gear. I'm going to go with the gear.
Aren't gears and cogs the same thing?
Gears are sharp, cogs are blunt.
I like stabby stuff. We'll do gears. Yeah.
Today I learned. I had no idea.
I didn't know that either. I thought they were the same thing.
All right. Yeah.
So we have our boilerplate code here. I do think it might be important to pull up our technical design document to know what we planned to put in this, which I'm going to have to just rotate away. Don't go anywhere.
Dude, I also wonder, Joy, if we're doing composite classes, should we think about interfaces? Not today, but something for us to think about, because I think interfaces with composite classes work really well.
Yeah, no, we totally could. That's definitely a direction that we can go. And it might be a cool thing to like talk about on the stream as well. So yes.
Okay. So here's our TDD. And let's go take a look here. So character class, character controller, we did this. We got to work on, we'll have to go back and document this next week because we actually changed how we're going to handle this. Character controller, this was handled. I also have actually put together a Kanban board and Airtable, which we can add in and check off our tasks, and we can actually go over that maybe next week. So game manager. So stuff that we decided we need to manage for the game manager is we need to know game state. We need to know what the score is, right? We need to know players in the game. We need to know our save. Somebody mentioned save data, and I think that might be a good idea. I think we could also have a separate save data class that we just reach out to. Could probably even make it be like a static class. I know there's heated opinions about static classes just existing, but we could do something like that. How many enemies are in the game, I think, is important. And then timer for the wave. Those are the things we need to plan for. And I think we agreed that we're going to use a singleton for the game manager.
I think we did agree, yes. And for save games, could we just do a single config file that's serialized instead of having a static class?
Totally.
Okay.
I've never done that, but we totally could. Okay. No problem there. Okay. Ooh, I like that idea. One is a cog, part of more than one setup. Sorry, we got some cog versus gear debate going on. So, this is going to be this week's how many wolves do you have inside of your programmer body moments?
I also see a question. When did you guys start using Unity?
Ooh.
For me, it was 2015. It was still Unity 5 at the time.
This is where I date myself, but I've been using Unity for 13 years. So yeah.
It's been a minute.
So Joy is the most experienced one here.
Yeah. And for me, actually about 2016, 2017. So a few years after Utsav did. So.
Oh, if we're just doing years in 2010. There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But
that makes them so much better than 13 years.
Yeah. All right. So we've got this. I'm just going to shrink this down so that I can access what we're building here. We've got our game manager popped up here. So I'm just going to make some notes for us in here. Some people are going to not like this, but so we need to track game state. We need to track enemies in game. We need to track time per wave. We need to set waves into action somehow. We need to track score. Now it's the part where I go back here. Except that I minimized it, didn't I? Oh, I'm such a monster. Making myself turn around. Hold on. And then we need to look at, okay, score, players in the game, enemies in the game, time. Okay, great. Go away again. All right, score, enemies in the game, players in the game. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're thinking of for this, right?
Yeah. I am thinking, is there anything else? I can't recall anything else. At least as of right now.
Okay. So the first thing
we could always add things in, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Should we make a singleton first, I guess? That's the first thing we do?
Do it.
All right, so we're going to do... Ooh, great question from chat. Is it better to put waves spawning and their times in another script?
So having a spawner manager, I mean, we kind of already do.
We already have the spawn manager could set how long the wave is, how many enemies there are, and then there would just be an on-state changed event inside the game manager that would change the state into, because we're basically going to have a state that's like, basically we would have like a transition state, right? So we'd have like we'd have a menu state, we'd have a game running state, we'd have a mid-level state, and we'd have a pause state.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and did you already say end game state?
Oh, and then an end game state. I really actually like that idea, that approach. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
So we'd have
works for
menu, in game, mid-level, level switching, end game, pause. Like those will be all our states basically.
Yep.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, do we need a state for is it networked or not?
Ooh, I don't know. Because I feel like the gameplay loop's not going to change based on if it's networked.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think we just need to have a networked version.
Right. So essentially, because if I remember correctly, we can add network behaviors to existing classes, right? Especially if it's not for WebGL. So if we keep track of everything, we're just keeping track of two separate game managers for two separate players, correct?
The game manager is a singleton, so we have to have one game manager.
No. But if you have two people working...
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So then all the states remain the same. We're just keeping track of states for both players separately.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I think you're right. And there's some good call out too that we could use scriptable objects for our save data or our config data, which I think is totally viable. That's a great way to use scriptable objects. I actually think in our latest ebook that came out the last 2 weeks, there's a whole section on that. It's really, really good, by the way. It's a really good read if y'all want to read something on scriptable objects. I thought it was a good book. Because even though I say readings for nerds, I do read. So,
are you trying to tell us that you're a nerd?
I'm a nerd. I am.
Yeah.
Don't look at my YouTube. It's all physics, math, and Unity.
That sounds about right. Yeah. So I guess here we're gonna set up our singleton first. So we're gonna set up our game manager instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we need a public version of that, which is a public static game manager instance with a capital, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Getter setter, right? Do you need a getter setter there? Yep.
Yeah, so I was thinking we could just do something like this, right? Isn't that how you do it?
Yeah.
This is going to be like the Tom type slow and like tries to remember how to do my job portion of the stream. So
Not
set,
me trying to scroll down on your computer.
and we want set to be private, right?
We do, yes, we do. I
Yeah.
think there's no reason to have public set on the game
Yeah.
manager singleton.
And it'll be instance equals value. Do we want to do our check here, or do we want to do our check in the get?
Does it matter? Wondering.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think wherever feels good to you, to be honest.
Okay, I can show you how I like to do it, and then y'all
Yeah.
can tell me how
Yeah.
you want to do it. Also, I'm getting errors, so I'm sure I'm doing something wrong, but we can figure that out. All right, so we got instance equals value. So I think what I would do is I would say if instance does not equal this, right?
Yep.
So if I want
Give it a
lowercase
little
instance,
destructoid.
then destroy.
Yep.
Why am I
See,
doing so?
thi-
What did I do wrong? What have I done
This
wrong
is
besides
why
everything?
I just copy and paste like this. I can never memorize like this whole setup, so I just have it existing somewhere on my personal computer. I'm like, yep, this is how you do it.
Yep. But basically, if our instance does not equal this, we'll destroy the game object, right? And then otherwise, instance.
Or do you check for instance null or this?
Yeah. No, you're right. If instance does not equal null, if
Yeah.
instance does not equal null, I think that's the best way to do it. Basically, if there's another example of it, just destroy it, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Because the game object shouldn't exist. All right, and then else.
Wait, don't you do that in awake? You won't do it in a get or setter,
Yeah, you
right?
do.
Well, so
awake.
my thoughts are we would just have the awake set it. Awake, you just do public equals this, and then it'll
Okay.
check it.
Okay.
We can do it
Let's
either
see.
way, though.
No, that's fine. I just want to see how you do it. I was just wondering if you could do it this way, but I want to see if you can.
I'm so glad that
Done it through the awake.
I'm so glad that the bull is just like that. Like I've done this 1,000 times, and I always have to Google it. Let's do it y'all's way. Let's do it y'all's way because I feel like I'm going to confuse us because I'm already confused. So you're literally just saying set is instance equals value. That's it, and get is return instance.
Correct.
Stop auto uppercasing, you rude code machine. You listen here. What? Okay, so this is why it's giving me an error. Oh, I know why.
Oh,
Because it's got to be static, right?
yes.
That's the issue, is I don't have this declared as static, and so it's mad at me. Okay. Oh, fun. All right, cool.
Does it also need to be a public instance?
No, because this is the private one, and this
Okay,
is the public
yeah,
one.
okay.
Does that make sense? So this is
Yeah,
our accessor. All right, so then inside of await. Oh boy, why did I start driving? I should have made you guys drive. This is a mistake.
No.
Live coding's always fun, isn't it?
So if
If instance is not
Instances.
equal null,
instance does not equal null,
and instance is not equal to this.
Do you need
That's
to-
not how you spell instance, though.
that is
Dante!
insane. Instain's my new metal band. Instained. It's been a while. All right.
So
If-
if it be that way, then in the mustache brackets, you just destroy this.
Okay. Inside the mustachios, destroy this,
Mhm.
and that's it.
I feel like
Okay.
since instance is a static, you don't need the and statement because it's a static, right? So it can only have single instance. So if it is not null, it's always this. So you don't need to
Yeah,
check for
else-
a not
You
this.
right.
Yeah.
And then else we just set it to value, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Else
Yeah.
we just do instance equals this, and we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. We good?
Yep.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah,
So
I love-
I think this is.
Oh, good. Sorry. You good?
No.
I think we're jumping on the same. I think we're jumping on the same comment though.
Probably.
So Raphael saying create a singleton T generic for reuse. Wouldn't it be better to inherit? I actually thought about that this morning, and I was like, that would actually be super dope. But then I went, nah, and I don't have a real reason as to why. I just think this is the way we're doing it. But
We were actually gonna have different comments, so I do my comment, I guess now. So I think it's really important to keep in mind, and I think a lot of people in the chat already are aware of this, but just for the sake of saying it, you don't have to memorize things.
Yeah.
Like there is no functional reason if you have internet access to memorize how to set up like patterns. You could just reference. It's always okay. And if you don't have the internet, there's books. But you know, we have a limited amount of things that we could memorize. So
I
don't
can't
feel
stress
bad
that
if
enough.
you can't. Yeah.
I have been using Unity for so many years. I think every time I code in Unity, I refer to documentation. Even if I think I know, I want to look at documentation to see if there's been any updates to the API with the new version, right? Are there overloads of the same API? Can I use it in different ways, right? Can I be more creative? So to me, it's just something that I want to continue learning more of, right? Because what I learned 3 years ago may not be the best way to do things now, right? So that's why I wholeheartedly agree with you, Joy.
Yep. And I want to call out a few comments in the chat. People are like, yo, you're writing a singleton, I'm out of here. Someone's and things like, this is literally an educational stream to like figure stuff out and learn different design patterns and have a good time. So like, it's a small mobile game. We're having a good old time.
Yeah.
Don't stress.
Straight up, like,
starting, I do
beef.
like JM Mac though. Instance can just be public static game editor instant get private set, which I think is absolutely right. Like, couldn't we just do... Like, we can just do get private set and call it a day, right? And we're set.
Exactly, because we're setting it in awake anyway, right? If instance doesn't exist, we're creating a new instance anyway. So we can just have a get private set. That's it. In a single line too. Yeah, inline.
Cool. But yeah.
Hold on. I'm taking control.
All right. Oh, you taking it? Okay, so you do your thing. I'll let you drive. I'm tired of driving already.
Who's gonna make it single line?
He's making it so much cleaner for us.
Utsav, take the wheel. Oh, great. That's good timing. I know I'm not a good singer, but did the dogs really have to start screaming about it?
Oh, they loved it. No, they love vocalization. It's their favorite thing. I'm gonna mute myself for a second while they sort out what's going on.
Don't mute yourself. Never mute yourself. Oh,
so lonely.
I know. Cool. Sorry, what's the bug? What do I need to... Where does the...
So, JM Mac is saying the semicolons after the getting set. So, get semicolon private set.
I always forget where to put semicolons. Does anything go
is
here?
There, like...
And then after the private set.
Private set, yeah.
I always forget these things.
Like you said, we Google stuff. I do it all the time. So quickly.
I do it all the time. Okay, you can take back control.
Like, Thomas, I have this mental image of your house actively being robbed at this moment. Your dog's like...
So, to be full disclosure, my dogs would ignore that. If a person was coming in, they just want to get pet. So, all right. So, we're all set. We got barking going on. We got this baby singleton started off. Huzzah. So, I guess we need to make an enum, yeah?
For the game state?
Game state.
Oh, they're right. We can get rid of our private variable. Now we can get rid of the private variable instance because we're using get private set, right? We can just nuke this. Because
can we?
Wait.
Yeah.
Do it.
Because there's no reason to have it now. We can just literally change this to capital, right? Because it's a private set. Only this can set it.
Correct. So even if it's a public variable,
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Because we have a private setter anyway.
Yeah, so we're totally good.
Yeah. Look at us learning on the job.
My favorite part about this is we're honestly just gonna make Twitch chat build this for us. Like, that's the plan. Y'all know that, right? Like, we're like, listen, we're gonna pretend. Anyway, sorry, bad joke.
Everybody's all about ChatGPT making games. No, Twitch chat
Twitch GPT.
Look,
all right.
Twitch already figured out how to make a fish play Pokemon. It can make 3 Unity devs make a game. Also, YouTube chat too.
Hey, listen, I'm not a dev anymore, so I can just wash my hands clear and be like, not a developer anymore.
I'm also really excited for like the other advocates that are watching this. Like, I know Esteban's like in my DMs, like, bro, I'm coming for you, and I'm ready for it, buddy. Because we're gonna bring you on here and make you go through and review our code. All right. So for our game state, we thinking enums. What are we thinking?
Yeah, enums are good. I think.
Enums great. Yeah, great.
I like good enum.
Let's jump in here. See exactly. Sandor, you are my crowdsourced chat GPT. All right, so we'll put the enum up here. It's fine, right? And the enum can be public. Enum. Should we call it e-game state? Game state? What's our naming convention for game states here? Just game state?
I think game state makes the most sense. E-state also makes me think of EB games, and that's different.
Yeah, that is. I used to work there years ago, many years ago.
Is EB games even still around?
I think in like Europe? I don't know. All right, so our game states, we already kind of talked about them, right? So we're going to have like a menu. Man, Joe Penny are so mad. They are just like raging.
They're not having a
wait.
good time.
Are they anti-singleton dogs? Is that what this is?
Yep. 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 Yep.
Wow.
Yep. They're just they're anti-game state. All right, so we're going to have what we got at our level. We've got like oh yeah, we got to do don't destroy unload. You're right, Jam Mac. See, what was going to happen there is we were going to hit start and then it was going to explode.
Well, actually, to that... oh, wait, no, we did decide to have multiple scenes. Sorry, I was thinking that everything was going to exist within the same scene.
We decided to do multiple scenes this time last week.
Yeah.
Okay, good call out. I am glad that somebody remembered the things that we talked about.
But wait,
Yep.
did we talk about additive scenes at all, or were we gonna do actual?
I don't know that our game's
switches?
big enough for an additive. Well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we did have this discussion. We decided to actually just
Okay,
do switching.
Switching, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember.
I think we need an end level state and we need an end game state
Yep,
and we need a pause state, right?
correct.
And then we need to accidentally hit Control A and just highlight everything.
What does an end level state look like? I thought we were just going to have endless waves. So what would signify end level?
I guess that would just be the level switch, right?
Yeah.
So maybe end
level is level
wave.
switch.
Maybe it's end wave is more a better name.
That
And we just
would be
get
a
rid of
lot
this.
clearer to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, what's the level state then?
So I would think that it's the menu screen, the game over screen. Is that what we're thinking of the different levels that we have?
So basically just the state of the level, right? Because the level's running and then the level's transitioning to a new wave and then the game's ending.
But if we have a wave state, why do we need a level
Yeah.
state?
I think we
You're
have
right.
too many enums here.
Yeah.
Too many cooks.
So either we do wave state or we do level state, I think. Right?
I think. I would
Because all of
agree.
our gameplay is only on a single level. The level switching
That's
is
true.
only for UI and
Yeah.
maybe if we do networked, right? So if the game is in a single level, we could have a wave state, and then wave state controls. We can have different levels of state, right? So like, wave state 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that is. I think that makes sense to me.
Okay.
And then over in the YouTube chat, we had a question from Artemis around death, and I think that's just going to be our end game state.
Yeah, that would be end game. When you die, it ends.
Yeah.
It calculates score and boom, and then it reloads.
Yeah.
Great answer, Sandor, by the way, because I read that and I was like, there's a lot of debate there. Yeah, we could have a way manager. Meowsicles is right. All right, so let's jump back to what we're thinking. So we got menu. So we're getting rid of level then. That's the plan. We're
I
doing
think so.
and we're just gonna do like wave active, wave. Running.
I would lean towards just is wave descriptive enough? Utsav is our pro on description, so let's hear from him.
Is wave descriptive enough? Enemy wave can be fine, right? Enemies wave, wave enemies, enemies wave.
Well, but there will only be waves of enemies, so do we need to get that
probably.
deep?
Yeah.
Because what I'm struggling with here is like, what is the end wave game state, and what other waves game states are we going to be in, right? Because for example, our game state is you're in the menu screen, is the game state is in menu, right? But when you're playing, do we need different game states? Can we just have like a single game state, and then we're just managing the logic of wave spawning and like
running and not running?
Yeah.
Because we do need to know if the game's running to control spawning.
Well, wouldn't pause be the pause should do that, right?
Yeah, I think so. We definitely need a menu. Maybe is playing.
Is
And
playing
then-
can be a
State.
bool.
Yeah, and then end game. Or is playing is currently a bool in the spawner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
just a state
collectively
called
people are
game.
saying like, like we're also like just play. So
What about
Yeah.
a wave that really waves, waving
all the waves.
all the waves?
Wee waves.
Because I'm wondering if we don't need to control any of the wave behaviors using game state, right? Can we just control
Yeah.
wave behaviors if game is running? We're
Based on
controlling
wave states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the game is running or it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're in the menu or we're in the game loop, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Or did we end the game? So end game still needs to be a thing.
End game. Yeah. So end game. Should we call it running? We usually call it game running.
Game running or end game, either or.
Yep.
I like game running because I have this imagination of like a cog and or a gear, depending on your preference in that argument, with a t-shirt like in like a little number like running. Anyway, all right. So we got this. We got our little singleton, rocking and rolling, menu, game running, end game, pause. Cool. All right. Great. And then we need to create that to be accessed, right?
Yep.
We should make it public, yeah?
The getter.
Public game state. Game state with the lowercase. So yeah, still camel case it. Don't break our rules.
Don't break the rules. No, we're doing our best here. All right, cool.
If you
so now we
break
have
the
a game
rules, you
state.
get the shouty code.
Yep, get the shouty
The
code. Nobody wants shouty
case.
code.
Shouty case.
All right,
that's right.
So we have our singleton. We have our game state defined. Boom. So we can get rid of this line here. Enemies engommed. So I do like. We need to track. Actually, do we need to track enemies in game here? Because couldn't the spawner handle that and just send a signal to the game manager so that we're removing responsibility?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's why I figured we didn't need the state. Yeah.
And then, so really, we just need to like now the game manager. Would the game manager keep score?
I think so, because the game manager, because even if it's a networked game, for each game manager, there's a single player only, right?
Right.
Where
I
else
love
would you
how
put score?
we're starting like really big because we can have a score manager. Like we could literally just like farm this out to.
Because that would technically follow the composite class. You know,
I love how we're just starting out like with this big mess of thing, and it's just like we keep going back to composite.
But I love that. That's what the whole purpose of this, like what we're trying to do is, right, is make this like manageable and not chaotic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that being said, just the score? Or did I ignore you while I was typing Twitch chat and we decided to get rid of the score?
I feel like we never came to a decision. We were just
we were just talking about the possibilities. We could farm this out, or we could put it here.
Yeah. I'm okay with either or. I think if score's scope is just literally just keeping score, and it adds no value in terms of like, does it impact game state? No.
Right.
Does
it
game state? Right, because end game state has nothing to do with score, right?
Right. It's just like, I mean, it's window dressing effectively, right? Like.
So
Yeah.
Could it stay in the player?
It could stay on the player. The player could keep track of their score, or we literally could just have a score tracker that's tracking score and reporting to the UI.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, I think it's own independent thing. I don't think it needs to be here.
Okay. Yeah.
I
can live with that.
So now let's just debate how we get rid of the game manager. Okay. So
all right, let's do it.
So because we don't. So does the game manager doesn't even know if there's a player in the game, right?
So actually, here's an important point. We do need to have some checks to make sure that there are two players in the game. Like, we need to make sure that the game is functioning as designed, right? So would that happen in the game manager? Like, would the game manager not start the game until it has, like, verified that
There's two players?
Mm-hmm. Does that happen in the network manager?
So it depends, right? Because if we are using netcode in the way that at least I understand netcode and I don't know a lot, is where we add network behavior to existing classes, then we could always check for, are there two sessions running? And only then do you change the game state from menu to game running state, right? For both the players. But if we have to extend netcode to make it work for WebGL, I have no idea what the consequences of that would be. So I think we should do it in a way where it's single player, where we can inject network behavior at some point later in the trade.
Okay.
My final question, somebody asked in chat and I want to address it. Do we need a game start state, like the game is starting, or a game is starting, or we're going to control that through waves, right? The wave manager is going to handle that. We're basically going to go to game running, and then at game running, it's going to check the wave state and cycle through wave states, right? Is how we're doing that.
Yeah. Because I think once you hit play, game is running. So game started. then it's just a matter of controlling waves, right?
Yep.
Controlling wave behavior.
And then we have end game. Should we call end game ending since we're using actions?
Oh yeah, let's.
I kind of like that to keep the naming there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there's the start of what we got kind of laid out, and I like that I really like that we're just kind of jumping in and out like this and really debating it. And I think this goes to show that like there's so many different ways to do this. And the thing that I really love about like any kind of stuff is like there's, in my opinion, there's generally always a better way to do things.
Yeah.
And you have to start settling on, all right, well, this is how we're gonna do it, right? So anyway, we could argue about this for hours, but I think we're at a good place where this is starting. So then, now that we know that, and the score is going to get abstracted to a score manager, which I need to take some notes on that, actually.
Yeah. Let's start prepping for what our next steps are in our documents.
Yeah, so do we need to, because we'll need to write some functions, right? Like, to make this thing work?
Nah, functions are overrated.
Single monolith.
Single monolith, big, everything an update.
Oh my god, okay.
Let's do it.
If there is a bad way of doing it, that is it.
That's actually the bad way.
We can't joke about this anymore. That's just, oh man. That
Sorry,
made
I
me
didn't
feel
mean to.
uncomfortable in my tummy.
All right, I'm going to bring up the TDD real quick. So we need to change a couple of things here. So we said this is literally only going to manage game state. It's just going to manage game state. Right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want, you can write down the states it's managing, but...
And the spawn manager is going to manage... It's going to manage enemies in game. Enemies remaining. Spawned enemies. UI manager is going to manage the UI, like the score. Then we're going to need to build some kind of a score class to manage score.
Yeah, and did we decide if HUD was also going to be managed by a UI manager? Or do we need a separate HUD manager?
I think UI can handle the HUD, right? Because the HUD's basically just going to be the score.
Yeah.
And like maybe like a food icon for ammo.
Okay, and maybe like the number of waves. I don't know if you want to go
and like the
far.
wave count, yeah, like what wave we're on. Yeah. And then we just added a little bit of complexity where we're going to add a wave manager, right?
Yeah, can the spawn manager? Nah, we'll do a wave manager.
I think we should have.
Yeah,
I think we should have a wave manager that the spawn manager talks to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And honestly, like what I do like the idea of with scriptable objects, I like the idea of defining the wave loadouts in scriptable objects. Maybe that might be too complex.
Nice. Yeah.
Could you elaborate?
So like we would basically have how long the wave lasts. Well, I think that'll be a fixed number. How many enemies? Basically, how many enemies are in the wave and how fast they spawn.
Yeah.
How long the wave lasts could change based on the enemy type.
Yeah.
So having a scriptable object could work there. Also worth mentioning, just very briefly, like we did have a conversation about this and we haven't touched on it yet. We may do scriptable objects for the food ammo stuff as well.
Yes. I think we actually need to add that because I think we should.
Yep.
Food should be defined as an SO.
Yeah. And I get the feeling that we'll probably dive into that a little bit deeper next week, but
yeah.
Yep.
You know, we shouldn't forget talking about our character stuff that's coming up.
Yes. So fun update for all of you. I guess we can dive into this. A little bit of wild chaotic. But this is really fun. So we were able to talk to some of our internal asset teams. Shout outs to the Real Time Learn team. Yeah, we're going to basically jump in and have characters created, our main characters created by an artist for us. So they're going to start working through us. Stefano's going to make those. He's going to animate them. He's also going to animate some of our enemies for us. And then what we're going to do from there is we're going to dive in and actually hopefully bring him on stream to walk through his design process and how he came up with everything and how it worked. And then we'll be integrating all that stuff. So I'm really excited. So we're going to be using prototype characters for quite a while until like closer to the end when we start adding a lot of polish. And then he's going to provide those assets for us. So I'm actually pretty excited that we get to
But
use
just to be
those.
clear, like we're still using the Kenny assets. Like we're still going with Kenny. He's going to be animating our Kenny enemies. The Kenemies.
The Kenemies, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, but it's just that he's adding extra stuff, and that's one of the cool things is you happen to have an artist laying around. You know, as you do, just the artists that are hanging out around in the hallway.
I have one in my filing cabinet I go to whenever I need
wild
artwork done.
artist has appeared.
Yeah. Mhm.
You just catch them in your Pokeball, and then you have them add extra art to your packs.
Yep. So yeah, that's exciting, and I'm stoked about that. So we'll let you all know, and we'll give you status updates. Those keep getting built. But yeah, so we got a scene manager. I'm just making sure I updated everything in this because I got distracted, as I tend to do. So we've got our character class. We need to update this too. So the character class is no longer a character class, right?
Right. So
walk me through how you broke that out.
Yes. So now, instead of a dedicated single class, we have health.
We have a character. We'll call it the character layout. We have health.
Yep. And then we have navigation, and then under that we have like sub bullets here. So we have Utsav's input movement, and then we have nav mesh movement.
Yeah, it's called player controller if you wanted the right name.
Perfect.
No, incorrect names only.
Yeah, so to be clear, not the Kenny, but we bought all of Kenny's assets to use, and we're pairing them with an internal artist that's going to help us match the style and make a couple extra pieces. So I actually had a dream that we were able to hire a Kenny, and that I met Kenny. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. It's just, brains are weird like that. All right, so we got that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And, yeah.
Also, if you wanted to just complete the character layout, they both have attacks, and it's another sub. So we have attacks, projectile, or melee, and that rounds up the things. There we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, if you can change the input to player controller, because it's just
That's what you named it. We got to be right.
Sorry, I can't.
No.
It bugs me.
We got to make that's so important for documentation. Okay. Cool. So we've got that updated. Let me go ahead and we'll just move this out the way again. Someone talking about Hades. I loved that game. Okay, so do we want to write like state transitions, or do we feel like we're not ready for that yet?
Well,
and how do you like to handle state transitions? So like the way I did it the last time I did something like this is I basically just had a switch statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'd pass the state in, you'd have on state changed, it would run it through the switch. Based on what the state is, it would fire off a number of actions. But I feel like we could build something a little more eloquent with events.
I feel like we could.
We could. Also, I'm not sure we're quite ready for this yet. There, at that.
We're too far? We're too far ahead?
Yeah.
I think we're too far into the future.
Yeah, so maybe we want to think about what are our next steps instead of thinking about state transitions. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, what do we need to do next?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Do you want to pull up the TDD again, and we can look at what the structure is and what our next steps would be?
Y'all were like, there's no way they're going to put us back in a Google Doc. And we were like, oh, yeah?
Also, this is probably on us. Did we ever end up publishing these documents and pinning it?
Not yet. So for next week, we need to publish them. That's on me. We got distracted. We got distracted because of the bug with the nav mesh that we figured out.
That's true.
And then also it was late. So we got to do that. Also, I need to make sure once we finalize this and push it to plastic, I need to make sure to push it to GitHub so that the GitHub link has our active code. So
I wish we have time to go through X links because you can auto link that. But
sometime.
I just remembered that I was in the Twitch chat and I promised Paige that I would actually ask about that. So Tom, pretend that I prompted the thing about GitHub.
Okay,
Joy is stealing my thunder. No, Joy.
I mean, can I just publish it right now? Is there a publish button right here?
There is file. Go to file.
I'm in file.
Publish. Where's publish? There should be export. Publish. It's somewhere. Go
All right.
up.
I'll figure this out.
Share.
Publish to web.
There you go.
Publish.
But you have to. So every time it gets updated, you have to republish.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That is a messy link. All right, we'll get you we'll make a bit.ly. We'll make a bit.ly for it. But for now, if people want to read this.
Just as a side note, really cool, like fascinating call out over on YouTube by Sandor saying that your state you can build your state machines out of scriptable objects, and my mind is now bubbling with ideas. I want to explore this concept.
All right. Let's this is the design now, not the TDD. So let's go back to the TDD and what do we need to do for next week? Like what are our action items for next week?
So Sorry, go ahead, Joy.
No. You go.
No, I was just wondering. I'm like, okay, so do we need to actually start throwing stuff at the enemies and start creating an end state, right? So then we can do the transition from game running to end state, and we can come to menu the week after. But that's just my thoughts. I'm like open to what you guys think.
I completely agree. I think that's what we need to do, right? Like we need to have our players throwing stuff.
Mhm.
We need to have food happening.
And I think waves as well. I think those are the big three.
Yep.
There needs to be food to throw, throwing to throw, and then waves to throw at.
Yeah.
All right. So to do, I'm actually going to document it this way for next week because I struggled to remember what I was supposed to do this week. I am going to do the waves.
Okay.
The wave.
Wave definitions. So we'll need wave manager and other stuff. Ooh, great question. What are we going to use for UI? Are we going to use? I think we're using UI toolkit, right?
That
we
was my
decided.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Joy, what you doing next?
I want to do the food. I want to make
Food.
scriptable objects.
Definitions. Okay. So you're going to
I
handle
guess
the
the
food.
ammo, the famo.
Food ammunition.
Food ammo. Yeah, food ammo. Famo.
Famo.
Yeah.
Utsav.
What is left? So throwing and do we want to track the throws as well?
Throw action and tracking throws.
Or
Because the
is
throws
it
are just
tracking
gonna be
score?
Well, so when they hit, the enemies will have to take a hit. So someone's gonna have to set that up. So do you want to handle like all the interactions? Like
Yeah, I can handle all the
Okay.
interactions. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So we'll just say throw interactions.
Yeah,
What you're gonna
throw
handle.
action and interaction, so I remember. Just
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, totally.
Did we lose Joy?
I think her camera might have gone off, or her internet went down. Hopefully she's okay.
Yeah.
I might have just gotten a message. Let's go look.
No.
All right, we'll see if she's all right. Cool. Thank you. The producer, of course, always has our back. Shout out to Freeman.
I know.
Freeman's the best. Okay, so we've got wave definitions for me and the wave manager, so I'll figure that out. And what I think would be really fun to do next week is maybe we define those things, and we write our code, and then I would, instead of walking through I like walking through the code today, but let's walk through the code and let's critique each other's code and
like a code review.
let's do like an actual code review. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, another thing I do want to note is I think we took a lot of time in doing code review, and I think that maybe took time away from what we could have done with the game manager today, possibly. I'm not sure.
I agree.
So, I don't know if we want to do different kind of time management or we prefer this, because either or works for me. But something to think about maybe.
Let's ask the chat.
Ooh, yeah.
Chat, you want more coding, less coding, more code review? What do you want to see next week? And we will schedule accordingly. Because for me, I really dig like the code review and the critique, but we can also do a lot of that off stream together and record it and publish it somewhere else.
That's true.
So I've seen less code, more code.
I feel like what it sounds like from the chat is there's a bit of both. So maybe we just do a better job of time management where we do code review a little bit quicker, and then move on to coding for a little bit longer.
I think that's probably the better plan. And I'm hoping we'll have, with these systems built, we'll have more interactions to build together, right? Because we're going to need to tie everything into the game manager. We're going to make sure the game manager has state transitions. Yeah, I think Paige nailed it. Balance is the word here. So we can work on that. Because this is an ever-living, breathing thing we're trying out here. Just figure stuff out and have a good time.
Yeah. And I love that. I think we're using chat to answer so many of our questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, remember, y'all, you're going to tell us how to code this thing, and honestly, we're not going to do it ourselves. We're going to make you do it. So thanks.
Just like that singleton.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so I think that's a good completion point for now. So we need to work on some of these things. Maybe we leave a few things open here, depending on time. We can meet on that throughout the week to see what we're going to build. And then we can tackle it. Ooh, I like that idea from Skagator. We could even do the code review together and bring notes to discuss the code review and the changes that were made because of it.
True.
And then we can just tackle and code more next week.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm trying to think of like really cool announcements we could talk about just before we head out of here. So Monday, we're launching an educator podcast to support our education community. So keep your eyes peeled. It's going to go live at 8 a.m. on all the services.
So you get to hear more of us. Well,
More of
more
us.
of Thomas and a little less of Joy and
enjoy.
myself.
Yeah, and y'all are in there as well. And then make sure you hit that follow button and say, "Hey, yo, you're back, homie."
Joy's
All right,
back.
cool.
It was so scary.
You just went off to the void. We lost you. Yeah, we were just kind of wrapping up. So while you were out, we came to some decisions. So we decided that we have our assignments. We're going to bring them back. We'll probably do a little bit less code review and a little more coding so that it's more balanced next week. That was kind of based on the chat survey. And we want to make sure we can code more and build more stuff. And then it sounds like next week what we're going to do is we'll bring back with our systems and then figure out how we integrate them into the game manager. And then we'll start kind of integrating and tying things together and figuring it all out and making decisions based on that.
Yeah.
It's a plan. Nope. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful Friday. If it's nighttime, morning time, afternoon time. Seriously, this is the highlight of my week. I love ending my week, well-ish, hanging out with all of you, writing code. Connect with us on the socials, tell your friends, and, keep it positive, keep it happy, keep it fun. And we're going to raid Moon is going to be our raid. So we're sending you to another amazing creator. And again, thank you all so much. Joy, Utsav, thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Thomas. It's the highlight of my day, too.
Hi, guys.
Uh-oh, we just unrated.